Hello again, everybody, and welcome inside the Howitzer and Buzz-saw Show. I am George, the Howitzer Gerbo.
And I am Mike, the Buzz-saw Asti.
Sports Talk back with you here as we have arrived at the midpoint of 2024, the middle of July.
Yeah. Summer's going too fast, but yeah.
I'm about to say one of our favorite times of the year. Yes, absolutely. We got a lot of anti-summer people out there, and we just need you to stifle your complaining for another 2.5 months and let us enjoy this.
Yeah,
so
I will take 90 degrees and humidity over 2 degrees, and it feels like you got punched in the face and are being stabbed when you go outside.
Stabbed. It's violent.
There's some wintry bottom temperatures that we've experienced over the years. I mean, not as much in recent years with some weird 70-degree Januaries, but no, I don't want freezing rain over this. It's vacation, beach, golfing weather right now. We're in the heartbeat of the summer, and there's still a lot going on in the sports world, and then a lot on the horizon of the sports world, obviously, to discuss.
I was at the beach in May. You just got back from the beach. It's a very good summer for the beach.
May's an underrated time to go, but
May's
when my first family trip to the beach, we were supposed to go last year. That was canceled. We did go this year, so I was able to show my almost 2-year-old daughter the ocean and the beach for the first time, and she took a liking. She took a liking to the sand and to the water a lot more than maybe some would have thought. So that's a positive sign for future family trips. Was able to get an unwinding, relaxing summer, unlike last year on what I had to cover professionally. So it's been a nice summer so far.
We will try and continue that nice summer here on this edition of the Howitzer and Buzz-saw Show, where we remind you that you can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Just search Howitzer in your favorite podcast app. And also a shout out, as always, to the Hyphen Podcast Group, a Morgantown, West Virginia podcast collective, bringing podcasts to the people. Check out them at hyphenpodcastgroup.com and on social. And as always, the music you hear each time on the HBS, courtesy of our friend Kellen B. Conley. Check his work out at hyphenuniverse.com.
New album out. Actually for a few weeks, I believe. I've been seeing some music videos that have been circulating throughout social media, so go find those from Kellen B. Conley. Of course, you can find us on social at Howitzer Buzz-saw, for the show handle at Gerbo3, and of course myself at Mike Asti 11, everywhere you can be on social media.
We're going to start off, since it is the middle of the summer and we're near the Midsummer Classic, with Major League Baseball, which we do not talk enough about here on the HBS, but maybe we will here as the forward months as we get closer to October and the pennant push. It is baseball season. It's the heart of baseball season. Embrace it. Baseball has been tremendously better the last year and a half now, since major substantive rules changes occurred in the game before last season. And this season, we've got a lot to talk about. And one of those things is right here in our backyard, Mike, and that is
the man stealing the headlines. Right.
He's stealing the headlines.
Yeah.
Rookie, top draft pick, Paul Skenes.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher who just put together his second outing of the season where he's gone more than 6 innings and not allowed a hit. Of course, the Pirates bullpen is mud, so they, of course, came in and promptly gave up hits. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about Paul Skenes, who will be...
Got the win, though. He was held on.
That's the other thing. Yeah. There's multiple.
1-0. He's 6-0, which is surprising. So, yeah, they've not ruined his overall stats.
Texting a friend of mine, I was like, they're going to need more. It's like, I know they got no hits right now, but they're going to need more than 1 run to win this game. And
we'll get into that, because I feel like that. I even brought that up today. That's being missed in all of this. We can debate all day whether you should allow a rookie pitcher to go after a no-hitter, and some have and some haven't, with how they've handled rookie sensations over the history of baseball. But, George, the other end of this that no one is discussing, that I will bring up here in a moment, you were trying to win that game. Forget no-hitter.
Pirates are up 3-0, take them out. Yeah,
you're right. If he's throwing a no-hitter and they're up 3 or 4 runs, okay, you can argue it. It sucks to lose no-hitter. He's mad. He'll get over it. I hear that, even though I'd want to have history continue. They didn't have that game on lock. So the whole argument of they had to try to win and winning's more important than his individual history, I agree. They could have lost that game. They were only up 1-0, which is how they won it. So I'll digress for a moment, but But yeah, he almost pitched an official no-hitter, did go to a no-hitter through 7 innings, only the 1 walk as well, so almost a perfect game. Ends up breaking a record for the Pirates franchise history. And yeah, people can say what they want about all the down years throughout its history. It's been around a long time. There have been Hall of Famers, great legends that have played for the Pirates. They have had glory days, and he has the most strikeouts through 8 consecutive starts. He had the Major League Baseball record for a rookie pitcher for the most strikeouts within his first 10 starts. As George mentioned, the first to go 6 or more no-hit baseball in multiple starts with 11 or more strikeouts. To add to that, by the way, he had 11 in his last start, his final start before the All-Star game. Obviously, the hype was there, a national champion, winning all the awards you can ask for in college baseball, dating a media sensation. Everyone knew about him, even if you weren't a baseball fan. Number 1 overall pick, but you absolutely now can argue he's exceeded expectations. Usually rookie sensational pitchers come out right away, and usually pitchers do have the advantage over hitters who don't know them, haven't watched film on them, don't know their tendencies. The umpires, let's be honest, are trying to get used to them as well. So usually we have seen before rookie pitchers who have the stuff can dominate the first 2 or 3 games. They maybe go against a particular hitter, no matter how great he is, and can have a great half a season or even a first full year and a half plus. But not all of them, because I've written about this a couple times now, not all of them have even become Hall of Famers. Not all of them have had great careers. Injuries or not, different things have stopped them. Eventually, his hitters catch up to them. But Skenes has brought that to another level that gives you confidence he's going to be this guy for the future and for a whole career, because he has not only dominated, again, done it to historic levels, and almost looks more dominant than he did in college. He looks like he hasn't missed a beat. Doesn't look like he's breaking a sweat. He's exceeded expectations and then some.
And he's done it while not being called up since May 11th until May 11th. So he spent the first month of the season development, classic, very pirate-y type of thing to do. He wasn't going to debut at the beginning, but when's he going to come up?
They brought him up earlier than some would have thought.
They brought him up earlier than some. Yeah,
June, and they did it in early May. Yeah,
comes up May 11th and has put together 89 strikeouts, only allowing 13 walks, 1.90 ERA in his 66 and a third innings pitched. He is the first rookie to start the All-Star game since another phenom that you and I remember, Hideo Nomo, in 1995. The Los Angeles Dodgers started for the National League. In a game that was also played in Texas, as this one will be as well. This one at the New Globe Life Field there in
that's one to bring
Arlington.
up that flamed out, though. He's not in Cooperstown, and that's not because of serious injuries. He just basically had the one rookie year, a little bit after that, and then it completely flamed out. So we have seen that before, which is why there's a debate on how you handle Skenes, and why some have brought up now is not about just the no-hitter, George, and we'll see what happens if this would occur. Obviously, the Pirates aren't really a contender right now, but they're in the race because everybody is, and it's wide open with more teams, etc. If they get in it and they're a game or 2 out, and it's kind of like this in early September, he would be well over his pitch count to what they announced before the season and he agreed to. I am fully expecting, based on how they handled him, George, that early to mid-September, no matter where they are in the standings, he's probably done. They're probably going to do the Strasburg thing. And if they are a game out of a wild card spot and they don't start him and then lose, it is going to be an insane reaction in Pittsburgh. But I think we need to buckle our seatbelts for that potential situation in September, unless they fall out of the race altogether.
Yeah, let's get into it there from that perspective. So Paul gets into the All-Star game, excited for him, excited to see what he continues to do in this season. Super chill dude, very nonchalant, love it. The way he
had to be
the
start, right? No problem with him as a starter. And a rookie again. Strasburg didn't do it. Kerry Wood didn't do it. That's why some of the old heads will say 20 strikeouts in a game didn't give it to Kerry Wood. So why does Skenes get it? But wrong decisions in the past don't mean you got to make a wrong decision now.
The only other guy in my head, and other people might throw out other names, Shota Imanaga was on a track there to do it, and then this last month of the season he gave up 10 runs in a game. Shota over the first, and that kind of not spotlight stealing or whatever, but the story of April. Shota Imanaga came over from Japan, signed with the Cubs. Super fun guy when you see him in interviews. He's doing his interviews with a translator, obviously, but has been really entertaining and was the best pitcher in baseball for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. And then, got tagged up a little bit. ERA went up a little bit, but he's another guy who I think would have been in consideration a few weeks ago. However, you bring up the point here, and we got to stop pussyfooting around for the Pirates. And it's like, I get it. You and I both, I don't want to go out here and then, you use this against me in 4 years or whatever, but you and I both know that they're not going to re-sign Paul Skenes to a long-term contract. I will state unequivocally right now that Paul Skenes is not going to play, unlike Steven Strasburg. Paul Skenes is not going to play his entire career in Pittsburgh. Period. Full stop.
We've seen
it with Garrett Cole. We've seen it with Chris Benson. All these other dudes. And Pirates have had some really been very blessed with the pitching riches that have come through this organization, mostly through drafting.
Which is how phenomenal it is that no one's done what Skenes has been doing, because a lot of them were great right away, but they're not even to near this level. It's almost a guarantee he won't pitch his whole career.
They're not to near that level, and the Pirates have had historical kind of greatness on a young rookie level before.
Yeah,
but man, without, save for his health, and if you're the Pirates, you're Bob Nutting as a miser, the owner. We know that he's miser with everything he runs, from the newspapers on down to Seven Springs, which he sold and everything. So and Fake claimed, and your reports just came out this week too, the Athletic and some other folks that. And I think Pittsburgh Baseball Now, I believe, as well.
Yeah, John Parada, actually, I was going to jump in. John Parada broke the news.
John Parada broke the news, and the other people, followed up on the reporting. Yeah,
John Parada.
No, I wanted to credit it. I knew it was local, and I forgot. And it was Pittsburgh, and it was John Parada, who's long time excellent writer on the Pirates.
Yeah, but now he's
a bunch of publications here now with Pittsburgh Baseball Now.
Yeah,
talking about how Nutting publicly to a lot of people came out and said, "Oh yeah, it's essentially I'm paraphrasing, but essentially indicated that we'll have money available to spend." And then Parada's reporting today saying people in the organization being like, "No, we didn't."
and to corroborate, as John knows, because John has been covering the Pirates in this market since longer than we've both been alive, and we're getting old these days. It is. The one thing, this is why I've called him a hypocrite before, and people said, well, you couldn't yet. Well, it's going to happen. I knew it was coming. He's going to be exposed as a hypocrite, because the one argument that maybe you could defend the Pirates on before and defend Nutting was the only thing he did not pussyfoot George. In the past, he would publicly say, we aren't going to spend if the window's not there, but once it is, and this is paraphrasing too, once it is, we then will. Meaning, we maybe will do the Royals thing, where if we're losing 100 games and there's no chance of winning anything here, we're not going to just spend a little bit higher than the floor and bring you 1 star to go to games. Sorry, if you want to still come, cool. We know you're going to still come, but we're not going to worry about our money in that situation. I don't care who writes about us being embarrassing nationally. But once we get to a window where we have a chance, like Skenes is now providing, where you're only a few games out, you're right in the race, there's more playoff teams, he's having an historic run, there's no reason why that'll calm down, then we will spend a little bit. And the Royals example is that. That's a long-tenured historic franchise that's in a small market per se, and they were bad for a while, but then they saw a little crack, and they overspent. They are still trying to get over that spending. And George, there are some Pirate fans that'll say, well, yeah, but the Royals are now a laughingstock, and they're going to admit to being so for another decade. They went to 2 World Series and won one, and they are still promoting the one they won. It is all over the stadium. They are still doing ceremonies for it. They're not just 5, 10, 15-year anniversaries. They're doing things for a 7-year anniversary sometimes. Like, they are all over that 2015 title throughout the last 10, 15 plus years. So if the Pirates would win one, they would be able to do that too. And that's why the fans say, here's the window, go ahead and spend. As you mentioned, the window is basically from now for 4 more years, because you're not going to likely re-sign Skenes. And I'll also add, George, the reply to that for some Pirate fans, and this does make sense to do, but I'm sure it will not happen. It would make sense now to do maybe what you didn't do in the past and call Skenes up right now after the All-Star game. Let him have his fun there, start, hang out with Livy Dunn. It'll be all over the national news, I'm sure, because of her and him. And afterwards, sit him down and say, Skenes, let's lock you up for the next 10, 15 years right now. That would be smart for a franchise worrying about money. What I will say, George, whether they want to do that or not, what I would say if I'm Skenes, not a chance. because if he does that now, he is going to be at an incredible discount in 2 to 3 years. Even if they give him $300 million right now, which they won't do. Say they do that and they give him market value currently and make him the highest paid pitcher currently. In 3-4 years, the way baseball money works, the highest paid pitcher in a new contract long term will be $400, $500, $600, $700 million overall. No chance he'll be giving him a bargain. So that won't happen. They should try. But yeah, we will really see whether there's hypocrisy or not, and what Nutting has actually said publicly the last decade plus since that Garrett Cole 13-15 run, if they're going to spend, because there's no way to deny this is now a window. We've seen it. We've seen the Diamondbacks 80-plus wins get into World Series. We've seen the Rangers, who nobody ever thought before would win a title. I mentioned the Royals a decade and a half ago. We've seen that with smaller markets or teams that don't usually go far, get that year or two run and have it be special. Obviously, what the Rays have done. This is a chance for the Pirates to have one of those years, even if they don't do it for 10-plus years. I doubt it'll end up being able to happen because I don't think they're going to spend like they said they would in this window. They still need pieces offensively, obviously, to get fully over the hump and win playoff series. All of that, though, will now be in front of us to see.
And this season is tricky. You've got a lot of people jammed up within 5 games of the wild card race, including Pittsburgh, who's been floating around at 4 to 5 games. And that's because the Pirates have not had a winning streak or losing streak of longer than 2 games this season. So they'll win a game, lose a game, win 2, lose 2, win 1, lose 1, win 2, lose 1. Like, and they've just been doing that the whole season.
Yeah, lose when Skenes doesn't pitch. Correct.
Yeah, and you've got an opportunity, and it's probably even shorter, as you say, than 4 years, probably like 2 to 3, maybe. Where. So
because then you might trade him early if you know he's leaving, right?
Yeah, and the Nutting, Nutting and Ben Cherington, give or take how much he's handcuffed by this, by ownership and management is, you're 4 games back. If you made a move for a bat, which they need, they have no offense. Paul Skenes goes out and throws heat every single night that he starts. And they've lost at least 2 games specifically where he had
11
a lead
starts,
of
6 wins, right?
Yeah, 11 starts, 6 wins, but like 2 to 3 of them very specifically were 5-run Paul Skenes lead, 4 to 3-run Paul Skenes lead, and the Pirates end up blowing it, or even less than that. And I think,
talking about pitch count, all of them except for the first one have gone at least 6 innings. So he's not going 9, but he's going at least he's going a quality start.
Quote unquote quality start. Yeah.
Right.
So they need a bat. Is one bat enough to help them, overcome 4 games with 7 other teams they're fighting for? Probably not. Like, I don't see this team as currently, no, I don't want to say as currently constructed. The construction's fine, just they can't hit,
Well, the argument, I hear you, and I wouldn't do it this year either. I don't think this will happen this year, but the argument against that quickly is, who are you scared of in the division? Forget the wild card division. You're not that far out of any of this stuff. Even if you don't win the division, you still have a path. And if we're talking Milwaukee, you just beat them even when you don't score. Are you really scared of them if you would meet them in the playoffs, if you have to worry about them for a division title? We've seen teams go on 10-game winning streaks in September to win a division in the past, if not longer. They haven't done it yet. But if you think Skenes is only going to get better, and the offense, which, has struggled, George, but coming into the season, people thought the pitching staff besides Skenes would be the problem, and the offense would be there.
And we'll mention Jared Jones in here, too, who's been equally as impressive as Skenes has in a lot of ways.
Right, but, I mean, if the offense picks up, and it could. I'm not saying it will to the level of winning a pennant here, but going into the season, people thought the offense would not be the Achilles heel, and maybe it would be the relief pitching or the starters beyond Skenes, or if the hype would live up to what Skenes was thought to be. Obviously, Skenes live up to the hype, and the rest of the rotation has been fine. The bullpen has been a problem, why people thought that game was going to be blown when they took him out in 7 when they only were up 1-0. But also the offense has been incredibly streaky and not nearly what you need to actually win in today's baseball. However, if that would pick it up, you're not scared of the Brewers. There's nobody else that scares you in your division or elsewhere. Even the National League as a whole, obviously the Dodgers are what they are, and there's good teams out there. But this isn't like you got a world beater out there. This is a very wide open Major League Baseball.
Braves have struggled this year.
Braves would be another argument.
Mets were awful and then got streaky. The Phillies have shown some weaknesses. Yeah, the two strongest teams are playing in a series this week, where the Dodgers and Philadelphia are.
Yeah, or even the Cubs are getting hot. They did beat the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people could argue the Cubs are one of those teams.
Orioles, yeah.
Because the issue when you bring up a team, regardless of the record now, George, if a team has a lot of money and can spend and can buy, and they feel like they're in the race, the Cubs are one of those teams that they may start buying and feel like they're in the race because there's talent there. Those teams maybe you want to worry about if you don't make any moves if you're Pittsburgh. But the point of this is they are not far out. There's nobody that's that scary, even the teams, the Phillies, the Braves, and Dodgers, that maybe you're really worried about. Certainly not Milwaukee. That's not a team you're scared of anymore. This is not a decade ago when they couldn't beat them. This Pirates team can certainly beat Milwaukee, whether it be in Pittsburgh or Milwaukee. If that's all the case, why do you just punt a year when you know you only have so many years of him?
I'm with you, because whether you add or bad or not, you go on a 5-game win streak after the All-Star break, and they're immediately in one of the wild card spots. They're in one of the 3 wild card, period. Everybody's done. San Francisco's done the same thing. Pittsburgh's doing. The Nationals were there for a minute. I don't think the Nationals are another year or 2 away with their young people. But the Pirates guys, O'Neal Cruz is hitting the ball harder, arguably, than anybody in baseball at this point.
That's one that could really pick it up.
And he's fine. It's like right now at this point, if we draw the trajectory line, that he's going to have, in theory, a really, really good second half. Key Brian Hayes is coming off the injury, so it's not he had a really hot start to last season, got injured, sucks, and so now he's coming back and he's just kind of finding his form again. But if you can put some Brian Reynolds, again, not the crazy hot start the Pirates had last year, which then fell off a hard cliff after the end of May, after Memorial Day. But Brian Reynolds is still out there hitting for power and hitting for contact. So if you can just kind of string these things together more consistently on a daily basis, where 1 through 9, everybody's able to pick everybody else up on a given day, that's how you win baseball games. Because the bullpen's awful, including Bednar at this point. I mean, he's a little bit better than he was at the beginning of the season. Rowdy Tellez, who sucked, and you couldn't defend him. Now suddenly he's back.
Ride that's been,
yeah. So again, like, they're showing signs, but yet there's no proof in the numbers yet of just stringing together the results of you're winning series. That's fun. You got to win. You got to get a series sweep, and then it turns into a 6-game win streak, and it's right there. And then you're in the wild card, and by July 30th or whenever the deadline is, end of the month here, you're going to be faced with a hard decision if suddenly the week after the All-Star break they rattle off a bunch of wins and now they're in one of the 3 wild card spots. What do you do?
Do you think it matters how they perform right out of the gate of the All-Star break? And the reason why I asked that, George, you mentioned all these teams, and we've talked about all these teams and how nobody's really scary, and even the Cardinals just above the Pirates. They are also one of those teams where there's no Pujols, major superstar. They're very streaky. They could be a cockroach in October, but maybe they'll buy, maybe they won't. It's not like they're dominant. They're obviously behind Milwaukee, who the Pirates have already proven they can beat. My question here about what they will do after the break, and if that matters, is because even if after the All-Star break concludes, they happen to lose 3 games in a row, or they don't perform well, or they have a little bit of a losing streak for the first time in a while, they will still be likely, based on how everyone else performs, within 5 games of every race imaginable, because there's so many teams that are there. So my question is, are you more worried about, if you're the Pirates, how they're actually playing, meaning that they're not backing into anything, or if they're within 3 or 4 games, but they aren't playing well, and the only reason they're there is because the Cardinals, the Brewers, going to even the West and the wild card standings, the Padres, Diamondbacks, etc., they also are losing, and they're still within 3 or 4. What does it either one of those matter to you? Would you say, well, you're not really good, so we're not going to buy, even though you're in the race?
Me, as a magnanimous general manager, would be like, all right, give me a proof of something. Give me a proof that you existing people can just literally play more consistent baseball. They're not gonna be the Yankees and crush.
So you need that even if they're in the race. What if they're 3 games out?
Me personally, in the intervening gap after because you never know, Pirates could start selling people too. It's a friggin' Pirates.
That's what I mean. You're not giving them much time here to prove the whole world to you.
I don't think they're going to sell this season, but you never put it past them because they do crazy stuff like that.
Right.
But no, in the week after the All-Star game, hey, we put together a 4 or 5 game win streak, and now we're in a wild card position. Me as a general manager says, okay, I want to add a piece, and very specifically, priority 1 is a bat.
Offensively, 100%.
And secondarily, yeah.
Watch them out a quality pitcher. Great, but they need offense.
Yeah. And then secondarily, maybe like old, I don't want to say old, veteran, established bullpen mid guy between Bednar Chapman and the starters there in the middle. Because Carmen Mladinsky, whatever, that guy ain't it. Any of the other bums they bring in there ain't it. So find somebody in that gap. That's me as a general. That's a second priority. Number one, far and away with a bullet is a bat. Now, me, actual Pirates general manager is exactly what you said, where it's, it's past the deadline and it's late August and we're still 4 or 5 games around here with the same guys and we don't got to pay anybody any more money and we're still in the playoff race.
We're in the
that's what I think. That's what I think will actually happen.
Things,
me, general manager me wants to supercharge it and be like, give you the clubhouse inertia and energy that says, I see what you're doing and I back it up with my actions and with a piece that will help you. Actual Pirates is probably, we're going to stand pat here and look, we saved all this money and we're still 4 games out of the wild card in September.
Yeah, but I do want to re-ask because I did not still hear you answer the literal question of, does it matter to you? Because you said if they get hot,
yes, it matters to me.
If they get hot, you then would, and I mean George Gerbo. If they get hot, you then would buy. Yes. It's very possible, George, they could be within 3 games and not be hot.
Yeah,
it's very possible. That's not out of the realm of possibility here.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm saying they've got. It can't
what if they back into it and they're not playing well, and Skenes even loses the game because we know he's eventually going to lose one? Then
I'm telling you, I would stand pat, and I think they stand pat.
Well, I think they would stand pat, but my question to you is, why would you stand pat? Because the Diamondbacks are an example of, they didn't win 20 in a row. They were basically the same team all year, very mediocre, and they went on a run in October.
The Diamondbacks have shown us the example, for the reason you said, where they could essentially, with the way this goes, in September, they still, barring a massive losing streak, which they've not had this season, unlike they did last year, they're still going to be in the wild card race. And specifically, too, and nobody really points this out yet, we're in year 2 now of the new scheduling model. And I believe that is what is contributing a large amount of difference to this. You're not playing St. Louis and Chicago and everybody in your division 19 times a year. You're playing them like 10 to 12 times a year. And you're playing everybody else. And what that's done unintentionally with interleague games every day of the week are giving a more balanced playing field across the entire league. And across
you could argue it's more fair. League. Right. Teams that were like American League East teams, when you had Yankees and Red Sox in the same division, they had to play each other 20 times. It's much harder doing that than playing teams that you're allowed to play some bottom feeders and beat up on.
Yes.
Them. Right.
And I'll give you a very specific name. Luis Robert in Chicago. All indications point to the White Sox being sellers in a couple of fashions. Garrett Crochet, who was pitcher of the month in the month of June, is excellent. But he's coming back from injury, if I recall correctly. So he might be on a limit here toward the end of the season. But Luis Robert, big dude, center fielder, can hit, position of need for the Pirates, where you could slot him right out there and give you more outfield versatility and is a bat.
I got one too, by the way.
And maybe could be obtained for prospects, not that many prospects, cash consideration was the Pirates love doing, and not have to take anybody off the current roster to get him from the White Sox.
Yeah, and the other one that I will bring up that also has been reported, I believe Paul Zeiss actually is who broke this news, and this is not something that's done yet, but there are reports, they are in rumors, they're talking to the Angels about Taylor Ward. Now, I do think some are thinking Taylor Ward's way better than he is. His wins above replacement is 1.4. It's not like we're talking about a world beater here or an all-star. But, George, there's some power there. There's 14 home runs there. There's some runs batted in there. He's played the outfield. He's played third base. I think it would fit into kind of what you're saying, that they're not going to swing for the fences this year. Maybe you could argue they should next year if they start out hot or they're leading a race or Skenes is still pitching like a future Hall of Famer. But that would be somebody that would improve the offense, add some pop to the lineup, and they would likely not have to give up hardly anything because he's not a career great player. His WAR is only 6 or so. So you could argue in a conversation with the Angels, you want to unload him because of a contract. He's not that guaranteeably great for a full season, but he's better than what we got going on right now. We'll take him. We'll give you a future draft pick or maybe some cash considerations or whatever you're talking about there. That could be another bat that maybe is realistic in what they would do. And some naysayers, and I've been one of them certainly, would say that that's not really a move that's going to move the needle. But as I just mentioned to you, I don't think you need a move that moves the needle this year, because the race is so wide open, and the Diamondbacks just proved that they didn't do anything like this. They did a Taylor Ward move and they went on and won a pennant. You can do that and do the same if you get hot in October. And the advantage of having Skenes, which the Diamondbacks did not have last year in equivalent, George, when you have an ace pitcher that is going to intimidate the rest of the league, and certainly your opponent in that series, you figure you got 1 or 2 wins locked up in every long series, at least one in a short series, and that gives you a big advantage. You're going into the series where the opponent is sitting there saying, we need to tinker this, our roster, our lineup, our staff, to avoid Skenes because we're terrified of them, which means they're giving you a win. That is something the Pirates have not had really since Garrett Cole. And when they had Cole, he was not great in the playoffs. It was before he really became a borderline Hall of Fame guy and a Cy Young candidate and pitching on World Series teams. So that would be a type of player, or obviously any of the similar that we're mentioning here, that you do something, you add, you can make a run this year. I don't think they're going to do any of this. I think they're going to stand pat and say we're within 3 or 4 games, the same lineup. No, we're not going to sell, but we're also not going to add. We'll worry about the money later. Maybe we'll do something in the offseason, and we'll go forward next year, which is back to the clock of what they figured in this rebuild. However, when they set the rebuild together 5 years ago and Cherington came aboard and he brought his ring from the Red Sox and then had his big thing of, this is different here. I know it's going to be a challenge, small market. I couldn't just buy and fix things like I could in Boston. I get all that. We're on track. At that point, you didn't have Skenes. At that point, you didn't have a future likely Hall of Fame pitcher, and I'm saying it as insane as it sounds now, but that's the pace he's on. You got to preserve that, and you got to hit while the hitting's good. And the point of this too, George, as we kind of round out the Skenes talk, you mentioned Steven Strasburg, which is a direct comparison people mentioned in the last decade or so of a sensational pitcher that was a slam dunk first overall, that was great right away. They really controlled his pitch count. He did not pitch in a postseason for the Nationals. That was a big debate at that point. People said, myself included, you got to seize the day and try to win now. It's very hard to do so. Nothing's guaranteed. Fortunately for the Nationals, that debate doesn't exist anymore because they did win a world championship with him. He was an MVP in the postseason. He was part of that. However, George, he's not going to be in Cooperstown. He didn't last forever. He didn't put up a career that maybe you'd want out of a guy like that. Kerry Wood, back in the 90s, 98, sensational season. He was the undercard of the home run chase where he had 20 strikeouts in the game. Some baseball historians are still arguing that is the single best pitching performance in an individual game in history. Look at the numbers. You could argue it. 20 strikeouts, borderline perfect game, no hitter all the way through. And he didn't become a Hall of Famer, did he? He did not become a Hall of Famer. By the time they got really good in 2003 and they had that run with Sosa, etc., and they lost in 7 to the Marlins, who won a World Series, Kerry Wood was not nearly what he was. He was a shell of himself. He was under Mark Pryor. He was a 2 or 3 on that rotation. You didn't get 98 ever again out of Kerry Wood. We've seen even way, way back, Nolan Ryan, Hall of Famer, one of the best ever. He won his ring in his 3rd year, never even got back to a World Series despite being great throughout a career, obviously, and all the records he's set. Meaning, do you not have to seize the day because of everything I just said? Some win, some don't win, but when you win with those guys, usually it's early in the career. They're not guaranteed to be Hall of Famers and have long careers. I agree with that they're not going to do anything right now crazy, and they could be in the race regardless. My argument is, and if you're the Pirates, you need to be worried about this and conscious of this. If you punt a year and you say, okay, we can sell, we lost in the division round, or we lost in the wild card round, or we just missed, and we're going to be great next year, there's no guarantee. Again, Nolan Ryan, a ring 3 years in, and then he pitched 27 years and never even won a pennant again. And it wasn't like he wasn't pitching well. Obviously, his Hall of Fame numbers are there throughout that entire time. That could be Skenes. Baseball's not like every other sport, George. You can be a guaranteed guy that you believe is going to be great for a decade plus, and that does not guarantee you a championship. Look at Mike Trout. So they need to be aware of that yes, you can have a window with Skenes, but you're not going to resign him, as you said. That's very, very unlikely in what he's going to command.
And this team manages so.
And how do you know the future?
overseas so poorly that their window arguably is at least 40% shorter than other comparable run teams' windows.
So if we agree even as a compromise that the window's 2 to 4 years, say 2 years if they're not managing right,
2 to 3 for me,
yeah. So
it would be great, yeah.
Well, what
was 2015, the middle part of the last decade was what 3 years?
13, 14, and 15, 13, and then 14, some 15. Argue they broke up the team too early and too early because they won 90 some games, they broke the team up.
In terms of acquisitions,
and that wasn't Charrington, to be fair.
It wasn't, and it was Russell Martin and AJ Burnett were like your splash guys. And granted, they gave the Pirates a lot of pop.
Yeah, and they're not homegrown like Skenes would be.
Yeah, but they were older, in terms of acquisitions. It's never like the hot guy on the market right now that the Pirates are ever bringing in.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they got to bring in the hot guy. The Royals example, George, when they won that World Series and got to 2 pennants, they didn't go ahead and bring in Mike Trout the middle of the year.
Other teams in similar size markets are showing you how to do it.
Yeah, but they didn't have to go swing for the fences and pay a guy $300 million. They were able to bring in quality guys. They were able to be buyers. They're able to spend a little bit more than normal. They sprinkle it in with some homegrown talent that they built up from the system. You could argue, George, based on what you're saying, that if they won from 13 to 15 with guys they were bringing in outside of Cole, who was homegrown, that the fact they have homegrown talent like Key Brian Hayes, O'Neal Cruz, obviously Paul Skenes, Bednar, as long as he's there, because he might be a guy that's dangled for some value. The point of that is that not easier for a small market than having to bring in guys and hope AJ Burnett becomes better than he was as a number 4 starter on the Yankees? You actually have guys that are homegrown that are not that expensive right now, that unless they're going to try to, screw you over and say, I got to get new money in the middle of the deal, as long as they hold water, again, you have a window from now to 3-4 years from now. The most optimistic fan can say 4 years from now. The most pessimistic fan, George, can say at least 2. At minimum, you got 2. So if you got 2, again, why are you punting 1? That's all I'm saying. That's simply put here. I get next year's a bigger deal and a bigger debate if they're in the race and they're punting the season next year at this time than this year. But why are you punting a year when the Diamondbacks just proved, and we've even seen it before, you don't need to win that many games. Once you get in, you can do it. You have an ace pitcher who's historic, and you feel like your offense could get better. You add one more guy, even if he's not a home run, swing for the fences type of ad, that could be a difference maker of you getting in or winning a series. Because, George, 13 to 15 was fantastic. That moment when Cueto dropped the ball will be played in history no matter what they do. They didn't win a series through that entire run. They won a wild card game. It wasn't a series then. They didn't win a divisional series. They didn't get into a championship series. And even going back to the early 90s, people forget this too. Yes, they were in championship series back-to-back years. I get it. There was no division series then. There was no wild card there. They didn't win any series.
Sad soul lone playoff appearances against the Reds and the Braves. Yeah,
you get in and then you lose those championship series, which are the only series that exist. The Reds go on and win a world championship. The Braves go on and win those pennants. Eventually they didn't do it the years they beat the Pirates.
Lost to the Twins
but again, seizing the day when you have the guy. Because, again, I think the conversation, if you win a series and then you flame out, or even Skenes has a rough playoffs or so, like Kershaw sucked in the playoffs a couple times, it's an easier sell to say we're going to get one in the future than if you just try to do nothing and punt and you go from 3 games. Like, George, if you finish the year, 2 games out of a wild card spot and you did nothing at the deadline at all, it's a legitimate argument for fans to say you made a small move, you would be in the playoffs. So why are you not trying? That'll then be brought up. So
correct.
We'll see what they do. I don't think they're going to do anything. I also don't think they're going to sell the big windows next year, but the window's not going to go forever. You got to seize the day now. There's no guarantee how long of a run you have or what the window is, even when you have a Hall of Famer or a guy setting records and being historic like Skenes is so far.
It's a perfect way to cap and take a little break. Calling our baseball discussion here on the Howitzer and Buzz-saw Show. We'll take a quick timeout and come back and talk some basketball. Basketball is another fun summer sport, especially when we've got the Olympics right around the horizon. The Team USA just playing their first game against Canada and preparing, and some changes already on this
can't avoid the damn drama even when it's about the country.
You can't. Oh, absolutely.
Even when it's about the country and patriotism, there's still drama.
Our guy KD's super happy. He's not causing any of it. He's doing his thing. He's
not a
happy to be
farewell
there.
tour though, but
No, not yet. We'll check into that here in just a moment on the HBS. I'll just pause here for a second and let me write down time.
39:42.
Thank you. Perfect. Welcome back inside the Howitzer and Buzz-saw Show. George, the Howitzer Gerbo.
Mike, the Buzz-saw Asti.
Let's talk round ball. Olympics
Get into the
time.
drama. I'm excited. Skenes is great. Everyone agrees. There's nobody debating Skenes really on how good or bad he is.
It's a good
Here
point.
we go.
Yeah.
Get into the drama.
You can always turn to the world of basketball in this country for your share of drama as the basketball turns. USA Basketball gathering in Vegas to prepare as they head off to Abu Dhabi and then to London before finally arriving in France for its Olympic tournament and its qualifying round games in the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris and in France. The roster set just a few weeks ago and already had its first change before the Americans even leave the country.
The least surprising one possible, but
the least surprising one possible. Kawhi Leonard will not be playing in the Olympics. The statement, which perfectly crafted by the misers there, or the minders, not misers, the minders at USA Basketball, saying it's in the best interest of Kawhi and also the Clippers, his
right. The Clippers
team.
And USA Basketball agreed.
Clippers and USA Basketball arrived at a place that says Kawhi should better be focused on preparing for the upcoming.
It reads as something that I feel like Kawhi's camp is probably upset about, because the beginning of it is Kawhi's ramping to go. He feels like he can play, but we've decided we're not going to let him. That's how it reads to me, which is funny. And I think the right call, but very humorous.
Grant Hill afterwards said that we tried. I think we all tried and gave it a valiant effort, and unfortunately, we have to move forward. Kawhi, of course, will now prepare for his season of load management, where he'll start 42 games. No, I'm kidding.
Oh no, 42 is probably high, but Grant Hill also, by the way, needs to run for some political office here.
I tell you what, he's man.
He needs to. We got, with all our issues of who people may or may not want to be voting for coming up here in November. There are two men that recently have really, I would potentially get behind voting for, and I think the country would too, based on how they act. Grant Hill and Brett Yormark of the Big 12. They are basically running. Brett
Yormark's definitely running for.
They're basically running political campaigns. Like, that he wrote it out, looked in the mirror, said it to himself, was worrying about what debates could occur and who he was trying to appease. They're getting it done better than both Trump and Biden. But I'll digress.
Kawhi Leonard, this past season, I had to look it up. Shockingly, played 68 games. I don't recall.
So was it? It was high for Paul George as well, who's no longer there anymore. But
yes, in the previous 5 seasons before that, he had not played more than 60 games.
Yeah. Forget that though. He didn't play in the playoffs. That's the problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He didn't play. He I think he played 1 or 2 games in the postseason, then tagged out the rest of the series. That's the problem. That's what he does all the time.
Talking about the Clippers on this program because they provided so much to talk about. In the season that he won the NBA Finals,
he played that.
I almost called it the national championship. I apologize. In the year he won the world title with Toronto, 60 games in the regular season. Then went to the Clippers. In his time with the Clippers, 57, 52, 52, and then 68 last year. 68.
And again, nothing in the playoffs hardly.
His third his third highest total since his years in San Antonio pre-injury. So,
right.
He's gonna. I generally like. It seems like a funny guy. We got the memes, we got the laugh and everything like that. But there is something. I think we're gonna find. This is the thing we love to do here on the program. I think, Mike, we're going to find years down the line here that whether it's cartilage or a knee thing or whatever, and we're gonna. I don't like throwing around lazy. Should guys play an X amount of games? Olympics right after the season. Even though Kawhi was out for a lot of it, He might just not be feeling it. I think we're going to find out years after his career's over that he played with like some long-term nagging ailment that we just didn't know about for a long time.
Well,
I don't want to. It's easy to drag the guy. I don't want to drag the guy too much, but my biggest thing being here with this, and it's something we'll get into, is if you're half, then don't commit or show up for the camp. We're like a week. They just gathered in Vegas for the first time. Within 7 days. They've only been out there a week. You take the photo. They've been at Bellagio, we're practicing in the ballrooms, everything like that. You got Steph Curry, can't spin a basketball on his finger. They're putting out a lot of great social content. And it's so you're just there, like, do it before y'all get there and take the picture. So Derrick White replaces him from the Celtics.
Which we'll get into, because that's another debate.
Which is a whole nother thing, which we'll get into in a moment. But like, give somebody else the opportunity. If Kawhi's like, hey, it'd be great. Thanks, Grant, for considering me. I could give it a go. But I think it's I don't like showing up for a week and now we just figured out, he's probably not going to be able to make it the entire time in France.
So I will tease that I'm about to criticize Kawhi Leonard a lot more than George is. But prior to me criticizing,
I'm there. Mike's going to do it better.
but prior to me criticizing Kawhi Leonard, I'm going to defend him briefly to be fair here to what you're just saying.
Yeah.
Based on what the Clippers have said, based on what Team USA said, and based on what the politician that Grant Hill is said, they were all in agreement that they were going to allow Kawhi, because he's a future Hall of Famer and does have a stature that's certainly higher than Derrick White and others, to come to Vegas, test it out. The statement even first off, you didn't read the first two sentences. It even says he wanted to come to camp, paraphrasing, wanted to come to camp and test it out. He believed he could go, but we then decided with the Clippers, who probably eventually called him, George. I wouldn't even be shocked, because this is what I think should have happened. Number one, what should have occurred is Kawhi Leonard gets the nod from Team USA. His career garners it. I saw the stats the other day, actually putting out in perspective, and kind of like a Bill Walton career. Only 13,000 points, but the 2 rings, the finals MVPs, obviously the success in the 6 All-Star appearances despite all the injuries. And I'm not out here going to say that he is faking injuries. I just don't think he has a bar that he really gives a damn to the level that maybe he should with the amount of money he's getting paid. And I do think, George, you mentioned the championship, the Spurs way back as a role player, and then winning it as the guy with Toronto in 2019 before getting to the Clippers. If he didn't have a ring, he might give a damn more. He comes across like a guy to the Clippers saying, you're cursed. I'm not. I got 2 rings. I'm not killing myself. Which the problem is, they're the ones paying him the max money, not those other teams. And he did the same things with them. So that's kind of where I'm going to bleed into my criticism of Kawhi. But in terms of this, after he got the nod, because his resume called for it, to be a part of Team USA, and George, to be fair to this, and even Team USA, he's been around for over a decade. He already has a Hall of Fame career currently, despite all the injuries. He hasn't played for Team USA prior to this. He hasn't been on the Olympics prior to this. His resume called for it prior to this. After 2019, you had COVID, and then they eventually went in 2021. He didn't play on that Olympic team either. And by the way, he was hurt, is why he had a resume, but he was hurt. So he was hurt. Team USA said, okay, we're going to finally put you on because we want to get it for you on the resume. We want to get you a gold medal, which everyone figures they're eventually going to claim. We'll get into that later, though, on if that's the case. What I would have done, though, if I was Steve Ballmer, because it eventually sounds like it eventually happened, where Team USA was going to let him test it out. He did not re-aggravate or get hurt. He looked okay. Team USA was kind of okay, even though they had Derrick White waiting in the wings. And then it feels like, to me, the Clippers and Steve Ballmer, especially after losing Paul George and feeling like they're taking a step back, probably called Grant Hill, Team USA, and everyone else there, Steve Kerr and company, and said, I mean, we're paying him the money. You're not paying him. This is a volunteer thing, Team USA. We're not throwing that 150 for him to probably get hurt again or not play. I don't think so. And they obviously acquiesced. What should have happened, once Kawhi got the nod months ago or whenever and was said, okay, you're on Team USA, you can come to Vegas. If I'm Steve Ballmer, I would have sat him down and said, look, Kawhi, it would be great for your career. The reason why you didn't go years ago is because you were hurt. Unfortunately, you're having an injury-plagued career. We want to have you in the playoffs, not just in the regular season. I don't care if you only play 40 regular season games. If we get in the postseason and then you play playoff games. When we were in our conference finals a few years ago, the first in franchise history, you didn't play in any of those games. And George, we talked about it a lot here on the show. They lost in 6 games with him playing 0.
0 games. Very hard to believe they wouldn't have at least won 1 and got to 7, if not
games.
won that series with him. So my point of it is, I would tell Kawhi, if I'm Steve Ballmer, all of that said, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not doing it. We paid you, even though you haven't really given us our money's worth. We don't want you to do this. We're pulling you back. We're calling Team USA and saying no. It appears like that eventually happened. I don't think he ever should have been in Vegas because he already was hurt. He already missed the postseason series. No, I would have pulled him back prior. But in his defense, saying that he shouldn't even have went, it sounds like everybody else was telling him to go. So, okay, if Team USA and the Clippers are going to let me go try it out, fine. But what I'm now going to say to criticize him, George, I'm not saying he's faking an injury. Never said it. I'm not saying he's faking an injury. I don't think anyone really I dare you to find me someone who's saying he's faking an injury. I'm not saying he's faking an injury.
I'm excited at where this is going.
What I'm saying is, again, as I said and have been saying, and others have been saying, I don't think he gives a damn. Meaning, I don't think he is somebody that when you're in game 5, you're down a game or you're up a game. It is a pivotal game. You got to freaking win it to close out or get back in a series. He's going to sit there and say, I'm not 100%, which nobody is, by the way, at that point in the season.
Sure.
I'm not going to play. They're going to go ahead and lose. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, players of that ilk would say, I'm not 100%, but we got to win this freaking thing. We got to win this game, especially if we're down in a series. I'm going to play at 70%, and I'm going to give it my all. There have been players to not do that. There have been players to do that. It's your own life. It's up to him. But I think it's factually the case that he doesn't truly give a damn, especially already having 2 rings, to play under 100%. George, because in the playoffs, which is the bigger issue than regular season games, no one is 100%. So Kawhi Leonard's standard of, I will not play past the spring, and I will not play into the summer, and I will not play in postseason games or games at all unless I am 100%. George, that basically tells me after the first half of the season, you're never going to play because nobody is 100% then. I'm not saying he doesn't have tweaks. I'm not saying he doesn't have serious injuries. If you're serious, okay. If it's a serious injury, you can't play. We've seen him before, and here's what's befuddling. We've seen him before, George, even going to the conference final series that I keep bringing up, that is the Suns finals that they kind of have ruined, but they played the Clippers in that Western Conference Finals years ago. George, what people don't remember, the reason why the Clippers were in the conference finals that year, Kawhi Leonard was a beast in the prior series. He was like he was with Toronto, which is why people were saying the Suns got to watch out. The Clippers can beat them. They went to game 6 with just Paul George. Kawhi didn't play any of those games. Yes, Chris Paul missed games, but Kawhi Leonard missed them all. Chris Paul played in some of them. And the issue is that he gives you a glimmer of hope and then snatched it away. And here's the issue. He played in the final game of the previous series, did not look hurt. He didn't leave that game with an injury, if you remember. He looked fine. It was a Hall of Fame Kawhi Leonard performance. And then all of a sudden, we're firing up the HBS. We're getting ready for game 1. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, for the old school Sports Center theme there. And breaking news, Kawhi Leonard's going to miss game 1 with a potential injury. Okay, everyone's sitting there saying, all right, same old story, but maybe he'll eventually come back. Doesn't play in game 1, doesn't play in game 2, doesn't play in game 3. Then you get mid-series when they're in a dog freaking fight with the eventual conference champ. Kawhi Leonard's going to miss this whole damn series. And you're sitting there saying, George, as somebody who, whether you're a Clippers fan, a basketball fan, or a sports fan, or you just want to watch some entertainment and competitive action here, saying he didn't get hurt the previous series. He's not 50 years old. They're in a dogfight. He wasn't called out for the whole series prior. What the hell? Like, what happened? Did he trip down the steps at his house? Did he have a fumble at a gas station? Did he have an incident at a mall? Did he go on a walk and fall down and smash his knee up somehow? What the hell happened? Those things have occurred throughout his freaking career. That's the problem. And George, it's not like he's given the Clippers a little bit of a major discount, you could argue, but that was to get Paul George in. He's getting 150. He's getting the 3-year max to what that would have been, even though not 4 years. Like, he's getting all the money you'd want out of a guy with that resume, and he's not giving the Clippers their money's worth.
And he's worrying about, it's even, his camps even said this, that he got to be at 100%. That's bullshit. They have to be 100%. No one is at 100%. Paul George has been hurt a lot in his career. He just played 70 plus games. He missed a lot of games. In that conference finals, when they went to 6 games, he later said on Podcast P, he wasn't 100%. He was hurt. The reason why he played, he knew if he sat down, they might as well quit and might as well fold. They had no chance.
Joel Embiid was playing with one eye and a bad back.
He played to get, and Embiid is some that I've seen people argue that if Kawhi has to pull out, why is Embiid playing? Because Embiid just missed some games in a series off of an injury. I get it, but Embiid hasn't done this BS where you don't really get hurt. No one sees you get hurt. And then all of a sudden you're missing games. Doesn't miss as many as these, even though, yeah, he had some way back in the early portion of his career. And Embiid's missed some games, and we could have a whole nother show, which we're not going to do. I think it's BS Embiid's even on the U.S. team. He should absolutely be playing for France. And I'll tell you right now, in my belief, which has not been literally said because Grant Hill's a politician, here's why Embiid's playing. He wants a gold medal. The conversation has ended. That's why he's playing. He wants a gold medal. He wants it for basketball.
Told France he was playing after France went through a whole bunch of procedural stuff to get him a passport and citizenship.
Sure.
He played for Cameroon before, and then he stabbed France in the back. Yeah,
right. But who's a better team?
America. Yeah, I get that.
He wants a gold medal.
I mean, France could play. France. They're not better than the Americans, but they got talent. Yeah,
they could. Yeah, but I'm just saying he wants what he thinks is a surefire gold medal.
Sure.
Doesn't care where. If Canada had a LeBron James and Steph Curry, he'd be playing there. He wants a gold medal. His cousin 6 degrees moved over would somehow be Canadian if he had to do that. So that's the whole thing there. You could argue Embiid shouldn't be on this team, but the Kawhi thing, he's worrying about being 100%. That's complete bullshit. You're never going to be. I don't think he gives a damn enough. He doesn't market you at all.
Is he?
I don't think his money's worth at all.
Is it just him being aloof? Do you think some of that's once he won the title with Toronto, it was like, I got a ring, and that's all he needed personally for vindication?
He had one before that with the Spurs.
The San Antonio one. Let me phrase. He's a 2-time champion. Let me phrase it. 3rd year of his career, wins the ring in San Antonio. Was the Finals MVP that year as well.
That's what I mean. He did it.
Leads a team of his own doing.
Sure.
A la LeBron in Cleveland to propel Toronto to their first Canada's first NBA championship. But hero in Canada, and then now I think they all hate him because immediately after 2 million plus people at that parade in Toronto, and then immediately after he goes to the Clippers. But did he get there and was like, yeah, I'm good?
George,
as opposed to Kevin Durant, who's kind of been hunting glory all of his career.
Yeah, Kevin Durant has 2 rings, even though obviously he was on stacked teams, and he's been trying to hunt. Although he just wants the ball, which is what he'll tell you. But people could argue he's trying to hunt to win one on his own.
He does love ball.
Their personalities are different, though. Kevin Durant, for all his faults, and I do think that he probably doesn't need to win one as a leader.
Kawhi could care less. Kevin Durant could care too much sometimes, at least with the people.
He does care a lot. And at least Kevin Durant's in commercials and markets the league, and he does do some interviews and he does do some podcasts. He did a 10-minute sit down where he was very honest. Kevin Durant just wants to hoop, but he can give you the marketing NBA star, which is what you're supposed to be in this day and age. But separate from that, and George, here's the other issue with Kevin Durant in comparison to Kawhi off of what you're saying. For all Kevin Durant's faults, and I absolutely do believe that he jumped on a stacked team. They won before him. They won after him. They didn't need him to win, even though he was the best player there. I don't think he's the best leader ever, even though he has the 2 rings and he's one of the best ever. The problem, those are problems with KD. What I'll say as an advantage for KD in this debate, he plays. Like, he's not missing games. The Nets debacle in that series, George, the reason why they didn't do anything in the postseasons, James Harden missed games. Kyrie Irving missed freaking games for either being hurt or his off-the-court issues back in the day. Kevin Durant was standing there as the only man who was scoring 50 in a playoff game and then lost to Giannis because he scored more in the Bucks one and Kevin Durant's foot was on the line. So Kevin Durant's playing. Kawhi Leonard's not. When it matters the most, Kawhi Leonard is not playing. And I just said what you then reiterated. I truly believe Kawhi Leonard does not give a damn at this point in his career. I don't think he gives a damn. I think that when he's having his meetings with his camp and he does listen to his uncle, etc., George, and he's not 100%, which you're never going to be when you're at that point in an NBA season, when you're in the postseason, you're never going to be 100%, certainly after the All-Star break. You're never going to be 100%. I think he's talking to them. He's either the greatest follower ever and listens to everything his uncle dictates to him, or he doesn't give a damn and incredibly aloof. But I do believe those conversations are, and I believe it's definitely said, Kawhi, You already have 2 rings. You already have 2 finals MVPs. Your resume is sound. No one's going to care about your overall point total when we're talking about NBA greats. We look at percentages in that sport. It's not like baseball. He could retire today and he's going to the Hall of Fame. It's a guarantee, not just from the NBA, but your overall career in college to Olympics, etc. Doesn't have the International Olympics, but the NBA is enough. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm sure they even said, Kawhi, the only thing you haven't done is win a gold medal. Let's try to go get that. They didn't think to themselves, this is disrespectful AF to the franchise that's paying us because we're not ever playing for them. Olympics, by the way, despite all the money these guys make in their lives, is a volunteer thing. He's not getting paid there. So, So if you can't get the money that he's not really earning, because people could say, if you're NBA, if you're not playing, you're still marketing. What is he marketing for you? Nothing. So he's not really earning it. He doesn't give a damn. They're probably telling him, you have 2 rings, go get the gold. It's the only thing you don't have. You didn't play before. Now you're healthy. You couldn't play in June, but now you can play in July. You're healthier in July. And if I'm Steve Ballmer, I would have said, Kawhi, break it down for you. You don't play in June. I'll be damned if you're playing in July. George, if I'm Steve Ballmer, I would tell him, I don't care if this is the Olympics. I don't care if we got Armageddon here and we need to fire up the Toon Squad. We're competing against them. No. You're not playing anything else in the summer. I don't care if it's to defend the world and there's aliens coming down and saying you need to feel
a lot of Space Jam.
Right? Space Jam's great. I don't care if it basically is the aliens come down and say you need to field your best 5 with resumes included, and Kawhi got to be there, or we're done as a people. I think
Kawhi's got to see. I think Kawhi played it backwards. Then Kawhi's got to spin it and be like, "Listen, I played in the Olympics the whole month of July and part of August. Now I can't play till after Christmas," and he doesn't play until like 2025. That's got to be the move where he's just like, I'm so tired. You want me for the stretch run and get us in the playoffs. But I play the Olympics and then I don't play for another 6 months.
See, that's exactly why I wouldn't want him to play in the Olympics on the Clippers. And what I would say to him in that regard is, okay, if we agree to that compromise,
are they open?
Then from the All-Star break into the playoffs, you got to play all the way through the playoffs, which he won't do. No.
Yeah, and Clippers are coming into this thing, and I'm trying to remember the Intuit Dome, which is their new stadium.
Yeah, it's happening this coming.
It's this season, right? Yeah. So this Ballmer visionary. They put a big steep wall in the one end zone. You want all the guys to be healthy and ready for that. Like he better be playing in October, November, December. Kawhi.
Sure, you would figure you want stars to play in that, but they didn't want to pay Paul George to be a star to play in that. They have less stars to play in that now.
Paul George, a little bit of a different story, but
a little bit. But the problem is, if you want stars to play in that dome and you want to make money off stars, George, the reason why Paul George has been there and you had to probably pay him if you want to be a contender and have stars there, Kawhi's going to miss games. You're not going to get Kawhi and James Harden. Kawhi's going to miss 40 games. So when he misses those games and it's just James Harden dribbling the hell out of the basketball and nobody else can hit a shot, you're not going to probably be a playoff team. They might not even be a playoff team or play-in team. When you had Paul George, you at least could get there. But yeah, and Paul George is in a better situation now with Philly. I'm happy that he's there as a true contender. But I don't believe Kawhi Leonard gives a damn. I'm sorry. I don't think he's faking injuries, which would be worse, but I don't think he gives a damn. Nobody wants to say that. I'm saying it. I do not think he gives a damn. And I think when him and his uncle talk about this, they literally say, you got 2 finals MVPs and 2 rings. You're already a Hall of Famer. Why kill yourself if you're not 100%? Which is absolute BS because the Clippers are the ones paying him, not the Spurs anymore, not the Raptors anymore, the franchises he won with, not Team USA where he hasn't won a gold with. They're not paying anybody. Clippers are paying him, and he's done nothing for the Clippers when all these other franchises are in the past. So I don't think he gives a damn now. Maybe he gave a damn 10 years ago, and it was a rough injury that was unfortunate. Sure. As we're speaking 2024, I don't think he gives a damn.
I think slightly to add to your point is maybe he got to that Toronto and got that title, and he's got that iconic moment.
It's a trump card. He got one as a leader.
Yeah. He's got that, and he's got the ball bouncing 4 times on the rim in the corner as he drains the 3 over Phil. He's got a signature iconic NBA moment, ironically over Embiid.
Yeah. They are tied together forever, but
and yes, maybe it's aloof Kawhi. Sad.
Yeah, I don't think
seems like he'd be a real funny. And people said Cameron Brink on podcast a couple of weeks ago said, Kawhi's real because they're both New Balance athletes. Kawhi's a really funny guy. I do believe that. I just believe he doesn't show it to the public. So, but I also believe I also believe part of your thing that he's just kind of got to a point where like, what for? Like why do I need to care? I've got what I wanted. So,
I think he's with the worst franchise to be with to do this. Like, my point is, he already has his resume.
That are better
He's with a franchise that has never won a title, that is feeling a lot of pressure to finally do it. They don't want to be the Lakers' little brother. They want to go into their own dome. They have a very rich billionaire who's one of the richest owners in sports. They want to win. Steve Ballmer's hungry. Paul George was, but now he's gone. They are hungry. They want to win. And the problem is, I don't think the guy they're paying the most money to be their number one gives a damn. Again, I don't think he gives a damn. He might be giving a damn in a commercial where he's really funny to Cameron Brink. He might, Paul George has said, he's really funny, fun to hang out with when they were sitting at
all anecdotal stories say Kawhi Leonard's very funny, just nobody knows.
Paul George told a story where him and Kawhi are sitting there smoking cigars and laughing at Drake's house when Drake's not even there years ago, and that's how they configured to come together. We didn't know about. Sure, hilarious. I'm sure Kawhi is fun to hang out with. But here's my point, George. If that's true, which I believe, that would piss me off even more from Steve Ballmer, because not only are you not playing, and okay, those are serious injuries. I'm not saying they're fake. Not only is it bullshit, you don't play when you got to be 100% because nobody is. But even if
cares about everything but playing for my team.
Well, no, again, not even if we get past the playing. If you can't play, this is the NBA. This is about money. This is about entertainment as well as games. At least market the damn sport and for yourself. He doesn't market anything because he's in the one commercial with Cameron Brink where Cameron talked and kids talked and he didn't even talk. Like, if Cameron Brink is saying he was funny prior to rolling film, why can't he say anything when the camera's rolling? It's almost like does he have a serious camera shy, like, actual, we need to see a therapist thing?
I mean, some people,
because aside from, but okay, George, here's the people in our walk of life. And maybe you're a Hall of Famer. You can be in that level if you're really scared to be in front of the camera. There are people that win Emmys for being behind the scenes. They're not making $150 million over 3 years. If I'm paying you to be the top guy, I'm sorry. The top guy who's getting the most money has to be able to do more than to sit there and say, I'm going to crack a joke before it's rolling. And once we're on camera, I can't say anything. No, like, that's not going to get it done. It should come a time where the Clippers, what they should have done, here's what they should have done, is last year when Kawhi needed this new money and this 3-year thing that he claims was less to make room for Paul George, who they didn't sign, what I would have seriously done, and it was unheard of at the time, I would have said, Kawhi, no. I don't care as the Clippers that you won a championship with the Spurs or the Raptors or how historic the Raptors title was. I am the Clippers. I'm the Clippers. I don't hang a banner for the Raptors 2019 title or what the Spurs did. I don't. How many rings do I have? I'm Steve Ballmer. I got 0. I want to win. You're not giving me anything. You're not helping my bottom line. You're not marketing this sport or this franchise, and you're not helping me win games. So no, no, we're done. We're done. We're out of the Kawhi Leonard business. You've been a failure for me.
We're out of the Kawhi Leonard business. I like it.
Like, it's no different than any other bit. I mean, if any job we have, if we start sucking and not showing up and not writing anything or doing any broadcasts, they wouldn't care what you did 3 years ago. Like, the person paying you needs to get something out of it. They're not getting anything out of Kawhi. So I would have said no, but that's just not how it's done in the NBA, I guess. But once they gave him the money, I absolutely would say you're not playing the Olympics if you can't play for me in the playoffs. It doesn't sound that unreasonable. It really doesn't. Like, people are going on. I heard Malika Andrews, for one, was on national TV saying that she really, it was almost like I think she actually said she almost was going to cry for Kawhi Leonard. I get maybe being sad that his career is injury plagued. I'm not saying he's faking injuries, but he shouldn't even have been there. Once you don't play in playoff games, I'm no longer going to cry for you, because it matters more what you do for your franchise that's paying you. And yes, Embiid's similar, but I've already addressed that. Embiid playing for the wrong country and being there when he shouldn't does not defend Kawhi, who has his 100% thing. And no, Kawhi shouldn't be there. I think the right call was made. Do you think the right call was made, though, and who's replacing him?
Yeah, we'll wind it down with Derrick White. His team's going deep. I think so. I can't remember if it was Grant Hill. Probably was. I think
he talked about
potentially during the broadcast with Gus Johnson, Bill Raftery, talking about that it was, we're trying to be a little more defensive minded there. And I was like, okay, I get it. But you know, the NBA Finals MVP in Jaylen Brown's also sitting right there, and it seems like I think he should have been somebody as a worthy candidate to be on this roster.
You would think, but I'll give you a conspiracy theory.
Oh,
and this is just about the decision because they're saying it was a tough call, and you know, I know Grant Hill also made the comment that he hates not taking somebody he's a fan of, and he's a big fan of Jaylen Brown as well, etc. And they want to be more defensive, which makes sense. Derrick White obviously is a better defensive player, was a big part of them winning a championship. Sure, I kind of can hear Derrick White fitting in better as a player, even though that's never really mattered before. It's been all-star teams that still have been good enough to win. And USA is still going to, George, I mean, they won't beat Canada comfortably, and they were turning it over every other play. They're still going to win gold. They should win gold. It would be one of the greatest upsets ever if they don't win gold. But do you notice they made the Derrick White decision so fast?
Very quickly.
George, it was so fast.
Near simultaneous.
Right. The national shows who were covering it, if you look back at clips, I didn't see this live, but just looking back at YouTube clips, say for ESPN, their headline story, for example, on a show on NBA Today would be about Kawhi not playing. They had to segue in the middle of that segment for new breaking news that came maybe 2 minutes later about Derrick White replacing him. My conspiracy theory is, which is almost appearing to be a fact, they knew Kawhi was a question mark. They let him try it out, and the backup plan all the time, for months, certainly at least a minimum of 1 month, was Derrick White. All the time. It was never any decision. They always knew the decision they were going to make. And then I wouldn't even be against the conspiracy that Jaylen Brown threw out there on social media when you saw what he put out there on X.
Oh, that was
I
so
don't mean
good.
to comment with just emojis when he went right at Nike and said,
I'm not afraid of your resources.
yeah, that's what we're doing, the resources, this what we're doing now. George, all but 3 players on Team USA, USA B, as people like to call it, are either Nike or Jordan Brand. And for shoe nerds out there who want to argue that Nike and Jordan Brand are different, you could argue that. Carmelo Anthony, I know, is a Jordan Brand guy, no longer Nike. It's different companies, the different distinctions, etc. It's under the same umbrella. The money is coming from the same spot. It's all Team USA B is either Nike or Jordan Brand, except for a couple guys and
Curry,
George,
notably.
Right. I mean, when we get down to the couple guys that are not Nike and Jordan Brand, we're talking about transcendent guys. We're talking about Steph Curry, who was legitimately hurt years ago, couldn't play. He's never won a gold. He's done everything else. He's a transcendent, revolutionary player. You got to get him a gold. You got to put him there. And his head coach during his dynasty, Steve Kerr, is the head coach of the team. We get all that. So again, Jordan Brand or Nike for USAB, with the exception of Steph Curry and legends throughout this roster. Jaylen Brown is signed to no one. He's made subtle comments, including after Kyrie was going through his thing with Nike when Nike dropped him during the COVID controversy in 2020, on how he was disappointed with Nike's decision. He defended Kyrie there. Subtle comments that didn't get as much notoriety, George, because Jaylen Brown was not yet who Jaylen Brown is today in terms of his stature. He was a younger player, more of a role player then. He wasn't the Finals MVP. I believe that the simplest reason, and I do believe Jason Tatum is still a better overall player and is now becoming underrated, but Jaylen Brown has a resume that's also going to get him the Hall of Fame someday. He certainly deserves to be on the team. Tatum's been on it already. Tatum won gold years ago. You could argue he even deserves to be on it more than Tatum to get him a gold. Tatum's Nike. All these other guys are Nike, Derrick White, etc. Nike or Jordan Brand. I absolutely believe Nike has influence here. Grant Hill's been a Nike guy for 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
These guys they're Nike lifers. All these people are handpicked Nike, whether they're the players, the staff, the trainers. George, if you're an intern, you're wearing Nike shoes. Try to come in there with Reebok. It's not going to work. It's USAB from 1974 to now is an organization that's built this roster, whether it be college to now taking pros, obviously the last 30 years, most of our lives since 92. And when it's been Nike, it's been all Nike guys, or now Jordan Brand. And that's still the case. So I do believe that Nike went in there and basically said, yeah, Jaylen Brown's resume calls for it. Sure, he's been disrespected and underrated. And you could argue with Tatum. Tatum's Nike. Tatum's in the family. Derrick White's in the family. We can sell it off defense. We can sell it off. He's also a Hall of Famer. Jason Tatum, by the way, has been all NBA way more often than Jaylen Brown, who I believe only has that once on a second or third team. Jason Tatum has been that as a first team guy.
Jaylen Brown is making comments. He's tweeting at us. He doesn't want to sign with us. He turned us down. We offered him contracts multiple times, which has been reported. F that guy. I don't believe this is about his play. This is about Nike influencing decisions and telling Grant Hill, you can argue defense. Say it in your political speech. We're basically your campaign manager. Okay, that's what I believe. Not only did they have this decision for the past month and knew Derrick White was the guy, but Jaylen Brown never had a chance. The second he went at him years ago, the second he defended Kyrie when they dropped him, and the second he went at him again on social media. Never had a chance. People are saying that he's going to get on this team in 2028 as a guarantee because Tatum's no longer going to need a third gold. George, I don't know. Is he signing with Nike by that point? If no, I don't know. There's no guarantee. I think there's a lot about Nike. 100%.
I'm not afraid of you or your resource. It's just maybe tweet of the year at this point.
I think he needs to go harder. I think he needs to say what I'm saying.
He
can go harder.
Just
he can
go
Nike.
Harder
and say, yeah, right. He went at Nike.
Don't subtweet Nike. Yeah, it's.
And he tweeted right at Nike and did say, this is what we're doing now, or something to that effect. No, do you think I'm wrong here? I think it's a BuzzFeed. He is absolutely. This is Nike influence.
No,
there's no one who can argue the resume.
Yeah.
It's usually an all-star team they put down there. I understand Derrick White's defense, but George, I'm going to ask you this quickly: is Derrick White going to be in the Hall of Fame someday? No. Is Jaylen Brown probably? Yeah. What are we doing? But again, these are political decisions.
Nike, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas is still bitter from 30 years ago for not being on the Dream Team when he was the United States top player in 1980.
Literally since the advent of
that's a political move. Jordan didn't want him there.
Literally since the advent of pro players in the Olympics in basketball, the 1992 Dream Team you mentioned, obviously Isaiah, and then to go back to your brand thing, Michael Jordan, obviously famously associated with Nike for his entirety of mostly of his career. In 1992, those uniforms were sponsored by Reebok, and so Jordan at the gold medal ceremony covered the Reebok's vector with an American flag. Very specifically during the photos and when he received his gold medal. So there's always some of that going on.
Who's to say Jaylen Brown wouldn't have done that as well? Clearly he doesn't want to sign with Nike. He's standing up there on a podium. Who's to say he wouldn't do that as well? The finals MVP covering your logo. They don't want to deal with that. It's not about anyone's game. Obviously Jaylen Brown as finals MVP deserves to be there on a resume. And again, you can argue Derrick White's defense, but this team's going to win regardless. This is usually a resume booster for Team USA now, certainly the last 15 plus years since they finally won in 2008 after the 2004 embarrassment. So obviously he should be there. It is a snub, but as we round things out though, because we kind of agree this is a political move. It's probably about Nike, etc. to screw Jaylen Brown out of Team USA. Separate from Team USA, Jaylen Brown and Jaylen Brown stans have argued he's been getting snubbed and getting screwed over and being treated like the black, sheep of the NBA well before Team USA. There are Jaylen Brown stans that believe he should have been on more All-NBA teams. He should have been All-Star more. That, yes, he won Eastern Conference Finals MVP and NBA Finals MVP, but he only won NBA Finals MVP by one vote over Tatum, who literally wasn't good in the first 2.5 games. That there are people that just do not want to give Jaylen Brown his due. And even on the marquee of the face of the NBA, or when the Celtics play the Mavericks in the NBA Finals, is Jason Tatum versus Luka. It's not Jaylen Brown, even though Jaylen Brown is coming off of being the Eastern Conference Finals MVP and then winning the NBA Finals MVP. Do you believe that the stands are correct and there is a bizarre conspiracy to not give Jaylen Brown his due? And why do you feel that is the case separate from Team USA? Because there are examples prior to Team USA, which may be a Nike decision, that are snubbing him from awards, individual accolades that maybe he's earned, and not doing so to teammates of his, in particular Tatum, which is why people are trying to cook up some rivalry there, which maybe could derail a potential dynasty. Do you think this is legit, though?
I'm willing to buy that for the main reason that people seem very, and we'll see how this looks when the NBA season starts in terms of perspective. But we were seemingly very quick in a long NBA season that was thoroughly dominated from beginning to end by the Boston Celtics in so many ways to simply wipe our hands and be like, okay, they were tremendously and great, but also, hey, this guy was injured, blah, 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 blah. You know, and we did a lot of that type of stuff.
I mean, those are facts, though. They're
facts. But I think that maybe I don't want to call it a movement, but maybe among some to take away from this championship, like, okay, they were super dominant, but they didn't play the best player on multiple teams in their own conference.
Why are they
finals,
still giving the accolades to Tatum, though? He's on the Celtics. What's the Jaylen Brown thing? Jaylen Brown is the one getting screwed off of these
because
awards.
there were because I think there's part of that official media dumb conversation piece that we're still shocked and we saw the vote among the 14 people who I think had the vote. It's not a very broad voting category. And what Brown got 9 votes and Tatum got 7 or something like that.
It was a very, very close race, and Brown was the clear MVP.
Two one way or 2 votes one way or the other. So I just think there's some people that were prepared to coronate Jason Tatum, and Brown got it. I was like, oh, okay, I can see that.
But this isn't even just about the playoffs, George. Again, Jason Tatum has been a multiple-time All-NBA prior to them winning titles. Yeah. Jaylen Brown has been a third-team All-NBA one time. Why is Jaylen Brown with similar numbers in terms of points per game, rebounds, assists, and they both were getting paid similarly? They now have similar contracts. They're the 1A, 1B. Prior to winning championships, I hear the vote. Put your mind back in May. Why was Jaylen Brown not an All-NBA player on the first, second, or third team, but Jason Tatum gets on those teams every year?
That's a good question. I think, and their trajectory in the league is similar.
What the stands would bring up. They're very similar. They've been in the league about the same amount of time. I believe one was there.
I don't have a good answer aside from that. Like just the whole conversation surrounding the Celtics is kind of seemingly, and I'm not a Celtics person or stan by any stretch of the imagination, but it just seems that they've wanted to discredit them left and right. From Missoula making fun of him
Tatum.
to.
Tatum's on all these teams.
Maybe because Tatum's on like Ruffles bags or things. I don't know.
Well, well, that's part of it.
Why on the marquee
Jaylen Brown not
marqueeism of it? Yeah, okay, he's the guy, and we don't have any room for anyone else. Even though they're all kind of very interconnected parts that have helped them to this title and to this dominance. So
I would fully buy that the Celtics have been disrespected because, as Jason Tatum's even said in multiple shows, yes, we won only one championship and we're in only 2 finals, George. They were in the conference finals 5 out of 7 years. That is insane. That is historic across sports. That is very, very, very hard to do. And they did win a championship. They're only 26 and 27 years old. They're hitting their primes. Yes, you would like to have seen them not fail earlier, but it maybe got them to this point, and they could still clip off a dynasty in the future. If any franchise candidate is this one. Joe Mazzulla as a head coach is also very, very young. I get it. They could still win. I think a lot of the Celtic hate has been unfair, whether it be on Mazzulla, whether it be on Tatum, whether it be on Brown, anyone else that was there as well. I'm with you on that part of it. But what all of that does not explain is during the slight that you're describing of the Celtics, Jason Tatum was on all NBA teams and getting respect individually, even while talking heads would say he got to win a title, he can't lose as many times, etc. But Jaylen Brown was not getting on those teams. That's the difference here. Yeah. I know Tatum's pissed because people were doubting him on their shows, but they were voting him on the All-NBA teams. Jaylen Brown's not even getting on those teams. Jaylen Brown was more slighted than Tatum during that run. And I'm asking why. You're describing them as the same guy on the same team that's getting disrespected. Why is one more than the other? There are some who want to venture into Jaylen Brown's religious beliefs and different things he said about Nike, as I brought up earlier, and defending Kyrie during the mess of COVID. Jason Tatum's kind of shut up, not said anything. He's friends with everybody. He goes on podcasts. He was on 7 p.m. in Brooklyn laughing with Carmelo. You don't see Jaylen Brown there. Do you think one is maybe more of a media darling and the other is not? George, I'll give you a comparison right here. We talked about this before, and this is exactly what our guy has brought up before. Terrell Owens and Randy Moss are the number 2 and 3 interchangeable receiver of all time on everyone's list behind Jerry Rice. Everyone's list. They both great on the field, had maybe stains on their resume.
T.O. had to wait 3 years to get in the Hall of Fame. Randy Moss's first ballot. They both should have been first ballot. Why did one have to wait? The other one didn't. T.O. has said that Randy Moss has been ingratiated in as a media darling, and people don't like me. And is it hard to not say that's correct? That feels like similar to what's going on here with Brown and Tatum.
Yeah. Tatum just seems to have the marquee thing now.
Well, that's not up to him to put him on the marquee.
I know. He's got the endorsement deals and sponsorship or whatever. However,
sure. Why can't Brown get a sponsorship deal?
Jaylen Brown shows up with Kaiser Gondrzak at the ESPYs, and hey, shout out fellow Mountaineer, both of them looking great. Maybe he's trying to increase his visibility that way. I don't know.
Although she has basically crashed and burned in her career ever since they got together in terms of playing.
Wow. Sad.
Yeah. I mean,
true. Yeah, we don't say
I mean, she's been dropped on her team. I don't even think talk about giving a damn. I don't think she wants to play anymore. I think she wants to be a celebrity off that. I don't think she's giving a damn about the WNBA, nor does she need to. I've even covered it. She's a celebrity in her own right now. Fashionista, you could say. Yeah. So he's there doing that. Fine. He's living his life. But I'll add to this, George. Because you could argue based on he's dating somebody, he's at the ESPYs, he won, he got the MVP hardware. Okay, he's living, he's fine. I'm sure he'll argue that. I'm going to call BS on whether this bothers him or not. You don't tweet Nike and do all the subtweets and go out there with the emojis if it doesn't bother you. I think it bothers you. It still bothers Isaiah Thomas from 92, and he is absolutely one of the greatest points.
100%. Yeah.
He is bothered by it. Like, George, if you were playing a pickup game with Isaiah Thomas, the first thing I'm doing to talk smack is, hey, you weren't on the dream team. You weren't on the dream team. You weren't on the dream team. He would break down and be fouling out. Clearly, he's bothered. It feels like Jaylen Brown's bothered. It feels like it's getting to him. And I think we should close with this.
Okay.
Do you believe, especially because at that point, Jason Tatum will already have 2 golds, likely does not need to worry about more a lot of the time, unless it's LeBron, Melo, KD. When you get more than 2, they don't put you on the team anymore. They allowed Melo to get a 3rd. LeBron's back again after a decade. KD could win a 4th, etc. Those special guys get it, but the regular star usually 1, maybe 2, and you're done. So this will be the 2nd gold for Tatum, assuming USA wins, and Canada and France are really the only competition. Assuming they win, he's already will then have 2. Do you believe Jaylen Brown will be on the 2028 Team USA team?
Barring a major fall off, yes.
Okay. If he's on it, I feel like maybe you fix some of this.
Yeah.
Because they likely then would win that gold as well, no matter who else is there. Granted, that is post LeBron and maybe even Steph. I mean, that team would likely have less stars, but they should still win. Now, you're saying you believe he'll be on that team. I don't know if it's slam dunk. I think it's how he conducts himself.
Yeah. Barring a major fall off in his play, obviously.
No, I mean personality wise, not his play. I think if he keeps going at Nike, they're not going to do it. I think he doesn't have to sign.
We got Kawhi Leonard's crazy butt. They put him in New Balance guy, also Kawhi.
Yeah, Kawhi and Steph are the guys. They're Hall of Famers, obviously, that they were able to put on without Nike. Do you think it has to do? Well, he is a free agent now. What if Jaylen Brown signs with Under Armour and then tweets at Nike saying you're a mafia organization?
About your resources.
Right.
I love it.
Does that play into it, or you? Think
you got to play this politics stuff. Well, people forget. In the meantime.
No, the better question is: do you think in 2028 that, with Kawhi, do you think Team USAB basically says to themselves, "This guy hates us, but he's a Hall of Famer. We have to do it." Do you think they eventually do that like they were going to do with Kawhi? They were going to put him on anyway.
I say yes, and also obviously put in the backdrop of your mind from 4 years from now, those games are in Los Angeles. So if for some reason that he's not on the Celtics anymore, and let's say he plays in Phoenix or for the Lakers or for the whatever,
just that shouldn't matter. I mean, Kawhi's moved.
It shouldn't. But I'm saying in 2028 when the Olympics are in Los Angeles and if we're having a Jaylen Brown discussion at that point.
We're going to have it leading up to the Olympic decision.
He's a star player on potentially one of the, let alone the league, which would merit it regardless. But add the increased multiplication factor of him being in Southern California or playing in California or Phoenix, which are all relatively close flight time. Then yes, I think he'll be on that team, especially with the Olympics in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, he just signed a new deal, though, so contractually speaking, he would still be with the Celtics, I believe, at that point. And
Sure, again,
well, the only way this breaks up, I would imagine.
4 years a long time. James Harden signed long-ass deals, too, and then he's like, man, and then he goes back and runs to Daryl Morey. Like, what do you want? Like,
well, I understand, but the Celtics are not.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying pretend it happens because you never know in the NBA.
Well, and there's an apron we got to discuss. So they're not worried about the apron, second, third, fourth apron. They're not worried about it at that point. Who knows? Maybe they win another title. They wouldn't want to keep paying. Maybe the national media gets their way, and eventually Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have come to blows, and they can't keep staying together because clearly we're trying to get a Shaq and Kobe divide here. It looks like the national media is trying to just wedge this thing and screw this damn thing up. So if they end up having to
people need content, it's all look. I encourage you.
Assuming Jaylen Brown, regardless of what team he's on, assuming he's still playing and he's not hurt, we are going to be discussing if he's selected prior to USAB making that decision for 2028. I am skeptical. I do think he likely will be on, but I am skeptical. I'm also concerned George is slam dunk putting him on because you can curse things. So if he's not on, we may revert back to this being Gerbo's fault. But I'm concerned. Because you also did think when I bring up 4
years is a long time, Mike. I mean,
I understand.
They're going to hold a grudge for 4 years. What if he signs with Nike at that point? What if he just becomes a Nike guy by
George, then? I understand, but
shit can happen.
you said you liked the Moss T.O. comparison and analogy there. When we were talking about that, you also said that you never thought in your heart of hearts the Pro Football Hall of Fame would get petty and disrespect a Hall of Famer, and they did.
The Hall of Fame was wrong on that.
I understand, but both of us. I remember before
I thought bygones could be bygones, and they could not. Bygones could not be bygones.
They acted like they were 12 years old. And then he didn't even do the ceremony there. He went on his own thing. He's still going on shows up in his feelings about it. I get it. I do hope that we are not sitting. So it's 2024 is 92. I do hope that it is not 32 years from now, George, and we are well old, and we are not potentially having the show still or anywhere else, and we are not discussing, or someone's not discussing, how Jaylen Brown is an old man pissed off that he wasn't on this 2024 team. Like, I think that would suck. Like, it is a bit ridiculous, especially when you have three Celtics. You mentioned the Celtics disrespect. Drew Holiday, Derrick White, and Jason Tatum, and the MVP from the Eastern Conference and the NBA Finals is not one of those three.
Yeah.
So they're obviously respecting the Celtics, but not you, Jaylen Brown. That is, it's hard to argue that Jaylen Brown disrespect is not a real thing.
Yeah.
And I'll even throw this shot at maybe some. I agree that Jaylen Brown has been disrespected well before the title. I agree it's not fair. I agree maybe it's a media cooked up thing nationally. But George, there are former players, some in the league, but some out of the league, like Carmelo Anthony, for example, that have platforms that are saying this is unfair to Jaylen Brown.
It could be promote and do
what I'm about to say is I watched the show. I loved it. Melo's one of my favorite players. He had a great
Melo show.
Well, I'm a Melo stan. He had a great show with Jason Tatum. Why not talk to Jaylen Brown on 7 p.m. in Brooklyn? Who what's stopping you from putting Jaylen Brown on 7 p.m. in Brooklyn if you're going to put Jason Tatum there? I don't know. You're close. I mean, you did a show in Vegas, for crying out loud, just to go see the team. You're in Brooklyn. You're not far from Boston. He certainly could take a train over there. I don't get you. If you want to get both sides of that and be fair and say that you agree Jaylen Brown is being disrespected, put Jaylen Brown on the show. Jaylen Brown will clearly come on there and trash Nike. Here's my thing, George. And again, I'm a Melo guy. Melo is a Jordan brand. Melo doesn't want to mess with Jordan Brand and Nike either. I'd be willing to bet you money Jaylen Brown's not on that show.
The vast ass buzzspiracy you got going on. And I like it. I
don't think he's going to be on the show because I don't think the Jordan Brand Nike people.
Well, let him on the podcast.
Do you think Nike and Jordan Brand want him on the podcast?
I mean, the podcast seems innocuous. I don't know. Like,
I don't know, man. Not when you're, it's like the NWO. When you're Jordan Brand or Nike, you're Jordan Brand or Nike for life. You're not.
Right, he's got fair enough. Then he's got to go on all the smoke because Stacks and
he needs to go on all the smoke. 100%. They don't care about the shoot. He needs to go on all the smoke. 100%.
Matt and Stacks don't pull punches over there. All the smoke's a place to go.
Unless you believe doing the show and
can't go on Mellows because of Jordan Brand back there editing in the cutting audio tracks in the control room.
They just wouldn't let the guest on. But unless you believe, if you're Jaylen Brown, George, that he goes on all the smoke, blows the smoke, Does that mean that he doesn't get on the 2028 team? Does Nike hold a grudge?
I'm telling you, 4 years is a long time, man. Like if he's good, if he's at the top of the league, one of the best players in the league, he's going to be on the team in 4 years. This is egregious because they go Derrick White over him. Obviously, Jalen's a better player than Derrick White.
Now, right.
Blah blah blah. Defense, I get it, and it's egregious when you're taking 3 Celtics. That is the point. That is part of the point.
And especially because Derrick White on there for defense. You already had Drew Holiday on for defense.
And yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, with no disrespect to Drew Holiday, in like previous years when this was just Phi Slamma Jamma type of squad, Drew Holiday probably wouldn't have made it either. But it's a very specific focus on preventing other teams from scoring as opposed to just we can score more than you, which is appreciated. Team USA, Jerry Colangelo, Grant Hill, everybody. But yeah, maybe
Drew Holiday was on. He was on the 20 team, by the way.
And Drew's one of the best, defensive players in the league in the last decade, basically. So yeah, you can't not have him.
No, I mean, he was on the 2020 gold team, Drew Holiday. Yeah, so he's a carryover. But my point is, if you want to carry over, because
in another era when we didn't focus mid-aughts, we would have just said, caution to the wind and stuck all of our power.
Sure, and they got a Browns, by the way, doing that. They got a bronze.
Yeah, they got a bronze.
They caution to the wind. It was an all-star team that wasn't good.
That's correct.
Yeah, and there's a documentary about how they had to fix all of that in 08.
Coach K had to come in and redeem it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they had to redeem team and had to get Kobe to play with a bunch of young players and LeBron, Melo, and Wade who were in their first years, but nonetheless are early in their careers after the first years after the bronze. But yeah, Holiday was at least a carrier. But you have Holiday for defense. Holiday is in this era. He got the defense. You don't need Derrick White as well. George, just look at again. This is a group of all Hall of Famers. I'm pretty comfortable Derrick White's not going to be enshrined in any Hall of Fame here. Jaylen Brown's a Finals MVP. Again, criteria that Grant Hill wants to bring up. What annoys me, and maybe this is the case, and I got to ask my friend Will Graves, who's covering the Olympics, about this. We only see all these clips of what Grant Hill and others are saying, either during games or certainly even in press conferences of what they're saying. Are you not allowed to ask a follow-up question at any of these? Like, why can you not follow up and say, Grant, Will
would be the authority, but yeah, some of it does seem very tightly controlled in terms of
because Grant's comments were, he literally said the word, I have a certain criteria that includes finals MVPs. I then would have followed up and say Jaylen Brown literally just won a finals MVP.
Sitting right there, yes.
Don't even say that if that's not true. He just won a finals MVP. Why, if the guy meets the criteria, then are you still not taking him? And Grant will then, I'm sure, politically tell me about defense. But I then would have followed up again, raise my hand and say, do you not feel that with Drew Holiday? You usually don't like to take so many players from one team. Grant then would, I'm sure, give me something else political. And the real answer would be, he doesn't like Nike. But he's not going to say that. But I think you just need to push him a little bit. Grant's probably going to dance around it, but I just find it hard to believe we see these press conferences with no questions. George, when the Steelers upload a presser, you can hear the questions asked. For these Olympics, you don't hear the question. Yeah. It comes off like they're trying to, it's like it doesn't come across like it's really fair to what's going on. But no, I think there's a full conspiracy going on here, and I'd love to hear Jaylen Brown on all the smoke or whatever, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm not afraid of you or your resources. Neither are we here at the Howitzer and Buzz-saw Show. Reminder, you can find us wherever you get your podcast.
I have Nike, but I also have Adidas shoes, by the way.
I don't have any. I do not have any. What are my other shoes? I got a lot of Nike.
You're wearing Nike now, yeah.
I got some Sperry, and I got Nike on t-shirts.
Yes, I mean they're fan of the show. You got Nike on, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, trust me, yeah. Again, the stuff like you find what you fit and you want. I got some Adidas workout gear, but I don't have any Adidas shoes. I'm a big Nike.
I'm wearing pants of another brand. I'll say that.
There you go.
I got mostly Nike. Everyone has mostly Nike, but I have some other things as well.
Yeah. Shout out to the Dunkalovs for the summer. A reminder that you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Just search Howitzer in your favorite podcast app, including on Apple, Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, and more. Just search Howitzer there. Also, find all our podcasts as part of the Hyphen Podcast Group, hyphenpodcastgroup.com, and on social. And a shout out to Kellen B. Conley, hyphenuniverse.com for his music.
Of course, find us on social at Howitzer Buzz-saw for the show handle, at Gerbo3, at Mike Asti 11. And again, if you cannot find us, because we are available everywhere you get your podcasts, you're just not trying hard enough. And like Nike, when it comes to Jaylen Brown, we don't want you.
This has been another edition of the Howitzer and Buzz-saw Show. where we conquer all-star selections, you and your resources, and sports radio.
One day at a time.